yesterday, Raiders GM Mike Mayock issued an ultimatum to Brown. You're either all in or all out after the NFL said he cannot use that old helmet. He has to use the new one. Brown venting on Twitter, calling the NFL super prejudice. Stephen A., we want to come back to this because it was a good conversation, and I want to start with you. Is this a big deal for the NFL, for the Raiders, AB, and all the distractions?
Well, it's a big deal because the manner in which he's exercising his insubordination. And that's where I vibe with Marcus and I somewhat disagree with Ryan. Ryan obviously gets it, and you're highlighting the Raiders, and I don't disagree with that, Ryan. What I'm saying is when you go on Twitter and you say N-word for life, if you are Antonio Brown, that's a very incendiary insult to throw in the NFL's direction. And regardless of how many people out there may side with what he's saying, remember, they're also siding with him, an individual who forced his way out of Pittsburgh, who threw an African-American coach under the bus in Mike Tomlin. And not only did he do that, but ultimately ended up getting his $30 million. And since he's gotten his $30 million, he's been at the very least petulant and in some people's eyes insubordinate. So when you take all of those things into consideration, and then we take into account the manner in which it's been disseminated, the potential kind of impact it has to those on the come up, not to mention a league overall that might pride itself on control to such a degree that they might feel the need to check him in some fashion. Maybe Mike Mayock was it's like a prelude to things to come, because today it's him speaking out. Tomorrow it might be somebody else. But the need for it, Ryan, emanates from the fact that you got to put a stop to that. You can't have somebody getting $30 million in additional guaranteed dollars after creating a ruckus to force himself out of one of the more notable and prestige franchises the National Football League has ever seen, have bodies in lying in wait because you've steamrolled over them en route to trying to get your money and still get away with acting like that. That's not going to work. That sends a bad message if they allow it to work, which is why I think it's something that's a big deal for the league.
So here's what I do agree with Marcus about. Marcus said earlier, he was saying, like, this is who Antonio Brown is. And he was speaking about not wanting to practice, but wanting to play. This is who he is as a person, right? If you go back to last year when I spoke out on some of the things that I felt or some of the things that I knew and I saw and different things I talked to people about, then all of a sudden I became Uncle Tom. What happens is with Antonio Brown, he doesn't think through things intelligently enough to come up with different reasons why things are happening to him. Because if he did his research, he would know that Tom Brady had to change his helmet, right? He went back and forth into helmets last year and now finally has complied with the NFL and he's changed his helmet. Aaron Rodgers also wore the same helmet that Antonio Brown wore and wants to wear now, and he's had to change his helmet. So this isn't about the league being prejudice, or it isn't about, like you said, N-words for life. What's happening is he has no intelligent opinion or intelligent or educated stance to combat what the NFL is doing. And so he sees that there has been issues that were raised by Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick has been treated a certain way, but he's trying to use it in a way that doesn't make any sense at all. And what I mean by this is a flea to the NFL, I don't think they're paying attention to it, right? When that comment is made on Twitter and when he's saying these things, the NFL has said, we've made our stand, we're going to stick by our rules, and you're going to have to comply with them, or you can leave those tens of millions of dollars out there and let the Oakland Raiders deal with it.
Before you continue, I've spoken to the NFL. I assure you, they're paying attention. They've paid attention. I've spoken to the Players Association. I can assure you, they're paying attention. Because remember, Ryan, you know this because CBA. You were a player rep. You were at the negotiating table. And obviously, you are not devoid of any kind of intelligence, my brother. Let me assure you of that. You're a pretty smart damn brother. You know what the residue of this is going to be. You know that a collective bargaining negotiation is coming up. Mm-hmm. You know that these kind of things ultimately infiltrate the proceedings, and they use any little nugget that they can to augment and validate the level of control they seek while stripping it from the players. And then they're able to look at somebody like this and say, see, this is what you can't trust. This is why we can't put the power in your hands, because look what you might do with it. Is that correct? I'm saying, is that correct? Am I correct in saying that?
Right. And the CBA negotiations, they're going to use everything. But this deal, as dealing with Antonio Brown, I don't see the NFL stepping in and doing things about whether or not he tweets or the things that he says. Go ahead, Marcus. I don't want to cut you off, bro.
This is the thing for me, too, as well. And, Ryan, it goes back to what you were saying, which I think is very important. Antonio Brown has to take personal responsibility. Like,
yes.
Only thing he does is rant when we hear from him. We never hear him take any personal responsibility. We had Drew Rosenhaus on earlier today on Get Up talking about the things that they've exhausted to try to find a helmet. AB has to step up, and that's not who he is. And the only thing we can judge you by is what the information that you give us. Here's my issue with the situation, and two, as we talk through this, I'm starting to understand where Stephen A. is coming from about this being a big deal for the league, as well as a big deal for the Oakland Raiders. When we talk business structure and we talk about the amount of dollars that the Oakland Raiders invested in Antonio Brown, it's a huge deal because you make that decision, and Ryan, you know that's the type of money situation that can drown a franchise if a guy decides not to show up or play to the full potential of his ability. That's the football side. From the league side, the league has had a PR nightmare for 3 to 4 years now, going back to when Colin Kaepernick started kneeling, and also everything that transpired from that for the right reasons, might I add, Colin Kaepernick kneeling. But here's the deal.
Don't forget all the domestic violence stuff, Marcus, too.
Absolutely. But why? My issue with AB is this, Ryan, and I'm going to take it straight to where we from. Stephen A., you understand this. Why are you so loud, bro? Like, why are you so loud about everything that transpired? You're supposed to have a handle on everything. You paid, you bred it up like we like to say. You living in a lavish house. You got the deal you wanted from the Oakland Raiders. Why are you so loud about everything? Like, if you got a problem with the power structure of the NFL, find something else to do. Like, this is what people are starting to come to an agreement with AB.
Marcus, let me bring it home. Let me bring it home. We got 3 brothers on the air right now talking about this. Molly's moderating this show. Okay, Jalen Rose obviously doing Get Up, doing, Jalen and Jacoby and all of this stuff. We've got brothers all over the place. Guess what? Part of the reason we get paid is because of what we can do. The other part of the reason we get paid is because we have proven we are trustworthy. In other words, if you invest in us, we will answer the call. We're not just going to show up when it's time. Okay, the clock strikes 10 o'clock or whatever time it is, and we show up on the air. When we go off the air, we have a way to conduct ourselves. We don't get to just do what we want to do, how we want to do it, any damn way we please, oblivious to the concerns of ESPN or whatever respective network a bunch of our contemporaries in this business may work for. It's not just about your performance. It's not just about your ability and your exploits. It's about proving and validating that you are trustworthy. And so when Antonio Brown goes out and acts like this, not only is he revealing that he's not trustworthy, but now it's creating question marks and giving justification and validation to owners who don't have our interests, don't share our interests, don't give a damn about our interests, care most about their bottom line. And we have now handed them an excuse on a silver platter to cut brothers short because they're going to use that as an example. That's the kind of stuff. When we talk about the selfishness of Antonio Brown, he got his. So he's saying hell with everybody. That's my problem with Antonio Brown.
I think what's funny, one, I agree with you. That was where I was going to go next. The other part of it is, I don't think he's saying forget everybody. I don't think everybody comes into play for him. I don't think that's not the way that Antonio Brown thinks. Antonio Brown thinks this way. It's linear. And that one linear direction is about what Antonio Brown wants, what Antonio Brown feels like he needs. And here is why I don't necessarily believe it's a big deal to the NFL. Now, behind closed doors and CBA negotiations, this will be used, right? But what they're going to do right now is exactly what I said. Exactly what I said with Aaron Rodgers, with Tom Brady. When AB brings this up, that this is racial, that is prejudice, they can say, no, these other guys did these things, right? They're the Tom Bradys, they're the Aaron Rodgers, it's only AB. And they can also say, see, while the rest of you champion Colin Kaepernick and say that his protest was real, his protest was right, on the other side, you have individuals that use it this way for their own personal gain. And so as it sets us all back, I believe the NFL sits back and says, see, this is what we've been telling you for the last 3 years. And that's the problem I have with him more. It's a win for the NFL. Loud. It's a loss for us.
Loud, man.
You know what else, guys? And RC, I know we got to let you go in a second. It's also a win for the Steelers.